Hello there, people of the internet. Welcome to another episode of a little video series I'm doing where I'm going through different time periods and I'm talking about specific loadouts that I would use during that time period. And whenever I'm looking at these loadouts, I'm trying to go with something that would be considered cutting-edge technology for that time period based off of what I have in my own personal arsenal. And today we're going to be looking at the 1930s. Now, we are not looking at using a firearm in a military conflict style of situation. I'm talking about using things for like my own personal firearms. If I were to pick something much like how U.S. civilians pick the AR platform today because it's such a capable platform, during that time period, what would I pick to be my primary firearm in the event that I need a firearm to serve whatever purpose it is that I need it to serve? So during this time period, the 1930s, most of your countries were using rifles like this right here. This was very common during that time period. 5-shot, full power rifle, bolt action. Most of these designs came about in the 1890s. Now, of course, there were newer designs that came out, and there were a plethora of all sorts of different designs. But basically, they all worked essentially the same, or they all did essentially the same thing. So this right here is a M1 Garand 9130. I guess this did come out in the 1930s, but it's based around the 1891 pattern. And it fires a 7.62 by 54 rim downrange. Let's send another round here. That poor car has been through so much. Most of your countries and most of your people were using something along the lines of this right here, that or a lever action system. But the idea of them is basically the same. You have a manually operated firearm, and that was kind of to be expected during that time period. Of course, you did have firearms like the Thompson, like submachine guns and pistol caliber carbines and things like that coming out, and they did serve as a good option. However, in the 1930s, we had this right here come about. This is the M1 Garand, however it is that you want to pronounce it. And there were self-loading firearms that came before this, but the self-loading firearms that came before this were complex, and this was by no stretch of the imagination the first self-loading rifle out there, but it was one of the first to have a system that is incredibly simple, incredibly easy to use, incredibly easy to disassemble. This right here is like one of the first simplest self-loading rifles out there that is viable for an individual to be able to use. Plenty of self-loading systems out there before this one, but my God, did this one right here absolutely take the world by storm. Adopted by the United States military, this right here is the first rifle to be mass standard issue that was a self-loading rifle. Granted, this right here is a 30-06 in-block clip. It's not necessarily what I would choose for today's standards. Back in the 1930s, this right here was by every stretch of the imagination like cutting-edge technology, especially in a world where most people were using bolt-action systems. So, full power rifle, in-block clip, all very good options. The 30-06, it's a pretty long cartridge. It's a pretty stout cartridge. During this time period, they would fire a 150 grain projectile at about 2,800 or so feet per second. Nowadays, you can get heavier or lighter projectiles depending on your commercial loadings, and you can get them in a variety of different velocities, and whether or not those are good to run through your M1 Garand, I'll let you guys debate on that down in the comments below. It's always people telling me one thing or the other with this rifle. But during that time period, I would probably just be rocking your standard ball 30-06, which I'm sure I could get pretty cheap surplus 30-06 back then. Now, back then, ammo would also be corrosive, so although I would have to clean this rifle, it would be a little bit more difficult to clean this rifle since it has a gas system and rotating bolt and whatnot and bolt carry group and all this extra stuff in comparison to a bolt-action rifle. I think that the additional capabilities of a larger magazine, in-block clips, and a semi-automatic system dramatically outweigh the pros of that dramatically outweigh the pros of the bolt action, because the bolt action just has too many cons in comparison to something like this. Now, one of the main reasons why I'm going with a self-loading rifle as opposed to a bolt action. A bolt action you can get away with if you have a bunch of people, but this right here is my own individual firearms to serve my own individual purposes. And having a self-loading firearm such as the M1 Garand to be able to send as much lead down range as I can in as fast of a pace as possible, that would definitely be ideal, since it would be just me. I don't think that there's a better rifle than the M1 Garand that was used in the 1930s. I'm still trying to think of one, and I literally cannot. Of course, if we're talking, I mean, we're comparing apples to oranges here, since we're talking self-loading systems compared to manually operated systems. But as far as self-loading rifles go, man, this right here is a really, really good one. Not unless we start talking about, like, oh, I don't know. There were some self-loading rifles that came out in 1938, like way at the end of the decade. Those were a couple of them. Yeah, I don't have those though. So this is from my own personal collection. M1 Garand, by far the best option. Okay, well, I got myself one single round of 30-06, and that'll be enough to have the in-block clip come flying out, and that's what people want to hear. So let me go ahead and send a round of this downrange. There you go, there's a round of that downrange, and now I've got dirt all over my legs thanks to that in-block clip. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. I am just now noticing this on the stock of my M1 Garand. It says 3+9 or 349 there on the stock. Is that a serial number? Maybe. I have no idea. I'm going to have to look into that. But this right here is what I would pick for this time period. I don't think that I'd be able to get an adjustable gas system at this time period, so I would be stuck with the ball ammo. I definitely wouldn't want to risk causing my M1 Garand any issues. In block clips, I'm sure they'd be all over the place during that time period. Maybe not, because this is before, you know, World War II, and before the United States really ramped up production on these rifles. So as a sidearm, of course, I would pick the 1911. This right here was just such a absolutely phenomenal platform for the time period. Like whenever it was adopted in 1911, it was a phenomenal platform all the way up until like the 1990s. This right here would probably be my go-to for every generation that was leading up to that time period. So let me know what you guys think. I am losing it out here. It is too hot. I am too sweaty. It's time for me to go inside. Let me know what you guys think on the subject. What would you adopt if you were in the 1930s to serve as your own personal use firearm? Like I said, we're not talking military context. We're just talking what would you choose to use to give you the best possible advantage for a firearm. Well, for whatever situation it is that you might come across, what firearm would you pick? I don't think that I could do better than M1 Garand. I'm not sure when the M1 carbine was really created and instituted. I believe it was 1940, where it was like finalized and came out of the prototype stages, and it was adopted in 41, so that'll be the 1940s. So M1 Garand is my final answer. Thanks for watching, folks. I appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Description below has a link to all sorts of stuff. Go check it out. You guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day. I will see you guys on the next episode. Oh, I need to hydrate. I'll see y'all later. Since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man.
Garand's Garand. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.